The temporal sanctuary of creative flow. Introduction. Lost in creation and time. Imagine an artist at work late into the night, painting a surreal clock face that seems to melt and reform in an endless loop. Hours pass unnoticed as each brushstroke pulls him deeper into concentration. In this state of creative absorption, often called a flow state, time itself seems to bend. Minutes or hours lose their ordinary meaning, and the outside world recedes. This familiar experience hints at a powerful phenomenon. Engaging deeply in creation can alter our subjective sense of time, almost as if the artist has stepped into a bubble outside the normal world of clocks. Such moments of intense focus are common among artists, writers, programmers, and anyone absorbed in the challenging task. The psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi famously described flow as a state of complete immersion in an activity where action and awareness merge. One hallmark of flow is an altered perception of time. When someone is fully engaged in a creative endeavor, time passes without you noticing. Hours can feel like minutes. An entire afternoon can vanish in what feels like an instant. For example, a surgeon could become so engrossed in a delicate operation that 2 hours can pass by in the blink of an eye. Only when the procedure ends does normal time snap back into place. Many of us have experienced something similar. You sit down to work for just a few minutes, and then you look up and the night sky has fallen. In flow state, time bends, and the usual ticking of the clock seems to pause. Equally important, during flow, the mind becomes anchored firmly in the present. All those little thoughts that normally tug at our attention. Did I pay that bill? What did that comment mean yesterday? What's for dinner later? Fall silent. In a full creative groove, there's no mental space for outside worries or self-criticism. Csikszentmihalyi noted that in flow, attention is completely focused on what's happening right now, leaving no room to track the passage of time or dwell on other concerns. Researchers observing artists in deep flow found that their mental energy is entirely absorbed in the unfolding present, with virtually no thought of past troubles or future plans. This aligns with countless personal accounts from creators. When they are deeply immersed in art, they aren't replaying yesterday's problems or fretting about tomorrow's tasks. They exist only here and now. This intense present focus is one reason flow is often compared to meditation. Like a meditation session, a deep painting or writing session can bring a calm, mindful state of awareness. The difference is that instead of focusing on one's breath or a mantra, the creator focuses on the canvas, the story, or the code. But the effect, tuning out the chatter of past or future, is remarkably similar. No wonder being in flow feels so refreshing. It's like giving the mind a mini vacation from the pressures of ordinary life. Given how profoundly creative flow warps our sense of time and provides this respite, it raises some intriguing questions. What is actually going on here? Why does diving into creativity change our perception of hours and minutes so dramatically? And why does it feel so good? To answer these questions, we first need to consider how the mind normally experiences time, and how in everyday life, that experience can sometimes be a source of stress. The mind's time travel, rumination, worry, and chronesthesia. Outside of these special flow moments, the human mind has a remarkable habit of wandering through time. We reminisce about the past, let our thoughts drift into daydreams, and anticipate the future. In fact, our brains are equipped with an ability psychologists call chronesthesia, essentially mental time travel. This is the capacity to vividly relive past experiences, or to pre-live future events in our imagination. Neuroscientist Endel Tulving, who coined the term, noted that projecting ourselves backward and forward in time is a unique and valuable feature of human cognition. It's like carrying an internal time machine. The mind can revisit a childhood memory in rich detail, or skip ahead to envision possibilities for next year. This is an incredibly useful ability. It helps us learn what has happened and plan for what might come. However, the variability that lets us imagine and reflect can also trap us in unwelcome loops of thought. When we're not actively engaged in a task, the mind often slips into an autopilot mode of unfocused thinking. Neuroscientists refer to this as the default mode network, DMN, the brain network that becomes active when your mind is at rest and not focused on the outside world. In this default state, thoughts might drift into replaying an awkward conversation from earlier in the week, reliving each cringe-inducing detail, or leap forward to worry about a meeting scheduled for tomorrow. The DMN is essentially the home base of daydreams, memories, and self-reflection. It's where the mind wanders when we say we're lost in thought. In moderation, mind wandering and the default mode network are not bad at all. This inward focus can help form our identity through self-reflection, and it can spur creativity by giving the imagination free rein. Letting your thoughts drift for a while can even lead to a sudden creative insight, or remind you of something you've nearly forgotten. In fact, the default mode contributes to creative incubation just as it does to reminiscing. But when this inward time travel mode starts to dominate too much of our mental life, it can become problematic. It's like a useful tool that, if left running constantly, begins to work against us. An overactive chronesthetic mind, one that is constantly flipping through yesterday's scenes and tomorrow's to-do list, often leads to distress. Consider rumination. This is the habit of getting stuck replaying past events, especially ones upsetting or filled with regret, over and over again. The mind compulsively chews on a mistake or a hurt in an endless loop like a broken record that can't move on to the next track. Psychologists often describe rumination as a repetitive, negative cycle of thought, essentially the brain rerunning a painful scene without ever finding resolution or peace. Worry is the counterpart to rumination, but focused on the future. Worry arises when the mind can't stop obsessing over what might happen next. It's the habit of incessantly forecasting disasters or fixating on potential problems that haven't actually occurred. In both rumination and worry, the mind is fixated on another point in time, stuck in yesterday or racing ahead to tomorrow, and as a result, we become absent from the present moment. Both states can be emotionally painful. Spending too much time living in the past tends to fuel sadness and depression, whereas dwelling in the imagined future, constantly bracing for the worst, feeds anxiety. In fact, much of human emotional suffering boils down to this tendency, being unable to let go of the past or the future in our own thoughts. It's a kind of temporal myopia, being so focused on other points in time that we lose clarity on the here and now and cannot fully experience the present. Modern neuroscience reinforces this connection between mental time travel and emotional distress. Brain scans of people who are prone to heavy rumination or chronic worry often show heightened activity in the default mode network, especially in brain regions involved in self-reflection and memory. In simple terms, an overactive DMN is the neural signature of a mind that's too busy time traveling and self-critiquing. Researchers have observed that an excess of self-generated, inward-focused thought correlates with increased depression and anxiety. It's as if the brain gets caught in a loop of its own stories and concerns, leading to real stress and unhappiness. This understanding sets the stage for an intriguing possibility. If too much unchecked mind wandering through time causes distress, perhaps there's a way to step out of that mental time loop. In other words, could we give chronesthesia a rest and find relief by deliberately shifting how we focus our mind? This is where the concept of creative flow comes back into play, as a natural antidote to the overwhelming feeling of an overactive default mode mind. Creative flow as a temporal sanctuary. Immersing oneself in creative flow can be seen as entering a kind of temporal sanctuary, a safe mental space removed from the normal pressures of time. In flow, a person gets a temporary escape from the relentless ticking of the clock and all the usual preoccupations that come with it. Just as a physical sanctuary offers shelter and peace, this psychological sanctuary offers relief from the mental burdens of time. The constant worries about schedules, deadlines, and the weight of past and future events fall away. The usual clock time, what the ancient Greeks called chronos, the quantitative time of schedules and calendars, loosens its grip. In the state of flow, one slips into a softer, more subjective sense of time. Some might even say that in these moments we step into kairos, the opportune qualitative time of the present moment. In creative flow, a person is living in kairos, fully in the expansive now, rather than chopping life into minutes and hours, and it is profoundly liberating. How does this happen? What changes in the mind and brain allow flow to feel like such a refuge from time? Earlier, we noted that in flow, self-conscious thoughts and the awareness of time tend to fade away. There is a compelling neurological explanation for this effect. Neuroscientist Arne Dietrich has proposed the transient hypofrontality hypothesis to explain the brain state of flow. This theory suggests that during deep flow, the higher-order executive parts of the brain, mainly areas in the prefrontal cortex responsible for things like self-monitoring, timekeeping, and planning, temporarily dial down their activity. In essence, the brain's inner CEO and its internal clock watcher go off-duty for a while. This isn't harmful, it's simply a natural shift in which brain networks are most active. With those frontal control centers quieted, we lose the constant stream of self-evaluation and the rigid tracking of time. It's as if the part of your mind that normally keeps asking, "How am I doing? What's next on the schedule?" has stepped back, allowing you to fully immerse in the experience at hand. As a result, your sense of self and of time's passage becomes much more soft and fluid. This shift in brain function aligns with how people describe flow state. Creators often say things like, "I disappeared into my work," or "I forgot myself and everything around me for a while." It is common to emerge from an engrossing creative session surprised at how many hours have flown by, or to realize that basic needs were tuned out. Perhaps you missed lunch and didn't even feel hungry until the second after you stopped. In flow, one stops being an observer of oneself and instead becomes the action itself. Attention is so completely absorbed in the task that the concept of an outside world or an external timeline fades away. For instance, a digital artist might become so engrossed in building a 3D model that 5 hours have passed in what feels like 20 minutes. When they finally look up at the clock, they're astonished to see how late it is. Yet those hours don't feel lost or burdensome because the time was spent freely and joyfully without a sense of constraint. In the flow state, a person is not spending time in the usual anxious sense. They are simply living in time wholly and vividly in the present moment. Understanding creative flow as a temporal sanctuary also offers insight into why artistic and creative activities can be so therapeutic. Traditional art therapy has long focused on how making art can express emotions or improve cognitive well-being, but rarely do we discuss its effect on our sense of time. Yet, time perception is deeply intertwined with mental health. People grappling with trauma or depression often experience profound distortions in how time feels. A trauma survivor may feel frozen in time, as if part of them is forever stuck at the moment of their trauma. Some in therapy even draw clocks with no hands to symbolize that life has seemingly stopped moving forward. Severely depressed individuals often describe time as unbearably slow and empty, or report feeling as though they have no future to look forward to. In anxiety, conversely, time can feel sped up and urgent, a relentless race that leaves one perpetually on edge. These unhealthy experiences of time contribute significantly to suffering. The traumatized person relives the past incessantly. The depressed person feels trapped in a stagnant present, and the anxious person is always bracing themselves for a threatening future. Creative flow can help rebalance these perceptions by providing a respite in the now, guiding someone into a flow state through painting, writing, music, or any absorbing activity can unstick a mind frozen by trauma and can slow down a mind agitated by anxiety. Now for some practical applications. What is the best activity to get into flow state? Well, that's highly dependent on your own personality, so we can't give you any exact advice there. But we can say that following your passion is the key to success. If you're looking for some ideas, a large cross-sectional survey of 1,700 adults found that the majority enjoy creative activities such as arts and crafts. Music was the runner-up at 5%, followed by dance and acting at just under a combined 3%. So if you don't have any ideas, these are good places to start. If the mainstream options don't interest you, you can also look into some lesser-known everyday activities to trigger flow, including meditating, yoga, talking to your neighbors, socializing in short, engaged conversations with acquaintances, phone calls, playing with children, board games, and even ball games. If you're still feeling uninspired, take a look back at what your interests were as a child. Odds are they will point you in the right direction. The possibilities are endless. Explore your inner passions and there will be a flow state waiting for you. It's not only about self-expression or distraction from problems. It's about literally stepping outside of our usual experience of time and giving our minds a chance to rest in a safe haven. In creative flow, we find not just an outlet for the imagination, but a sanctuary for the psyche. A place where time bends, burdens lighten, and we are free to simply be, unencumbered by yesterday's sorrows or tomorrow's worries. Conclusion: embracing the timeless present. So, the next time you find yourself utterly absorbed in a creative project, when you finally look up and realize, whoa, it's already midnight? Take a moment to appreciate what just happened. You stepped into a temporal sanctuary of your own making. You reclaimed the present moment for yourself. In those minutes or hours, you were free. Free from the rush of chronological time. Free from the pull of the past and the future. You were living fully in the now, and that is a powerful place to be. Remember that whenever life's pressures build up, this refuge is always available to you, waving in the bristles of a paintbrush, in the keys of a piano, in the pages of a journal, in the code of a program, in the kitchen or the workshop, wherever your creative passion lies. It's like having a secret hideout outside of time where you can retreat for a while and return to the world feeling recharged. In creative flow, we do more than produce art or solve problems. We also heal and renew our minds. By letting time blur and focusing our energy on the present task, we give ourselves a break from the mental noise of yesterday and tomorrow. So go ahead, dive into that painting, that poem, that experiment, that project that makes you lose track of time. Embrace those moments when you lose yourself in creation, because in doing so, you may discover something invaluable, a fleeting sense of freedom, clarity, and peace found here in the timeless present.